Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in.
I have not used this intro in months. There we go. Greetings. I have with me Mr. John Fitch right now, who I'm going to unmute. Yes. The other guys will be filtering in, I'm sure, sooner or later. John, you were the one that came up with today's topic. Thank you. Bravo.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. Interesting phenomenon that kind of keeps happening.
Yeah, I think so too. Guys in the chat, we will definitely be taking some questions and super chats for this one as well. One Man's Chorus already came in here. Roosh removed his best-selling books from Amazon and hasn't written anything since returning to Christianity. Why would he do something that made him poorer if he's still a grifter? Well, to my knowledge, he still has his. I don't know about you, One Man's Chorus, but I still get a weekly newsletter from Roosh talking about his appearances and everything else that he's doing. And by the way, he is working on a book right now. I think he already has another book right now. And what the hell was it too? Damn it, I tried to be as prepared as I could be for this show. And that was the one thing I didn't really look at was, I know he has a, RooshV.com. I know he's got a book out. I know he's working. Oh yeah, there it is. He does have a new book. It's called My American Pilgrim is what it's called. And so yes, he does. And so let's I could put it up on screen if you'd like. One Man's Chorus, but he does. He's still definitely in the game. Still definitely in the grift. So, but I'm glad you brought that up because I really wanted to, actually, that's a good starting point for this is I see a lot of these guys, and I think you are too, who are sort of former, red pill, guru. I don't even really want to call them red pill gurus because some of them aren't really necessarily red pill, or they were, and then they weren't, and then they are again. And now suddenly they found God or they found something else. And by the way, I want to put some caveats out here first is that, today is not like I'm not going to be bashing any particular religion or anything like that. If you've read my book, Religion, which was out as early, since has it been that long? Since January.
I have about the religious stuff though.
Yeah. And I've been kind of off and on hitting on the religious topics for a little bit because as people want me to come on their show and talk about it, that's good. Which, by the way, I will be on Rich's show on Monday. Discussing religion and marriage in respect to, like, say, red pill stuff and my book. So I know Aaron Clary did a review on religion now that it's in Audible and it's easy for him to consume. And I'm glad to see it's getting a little bit more traction now since the Audible book came out, and I got a lot of people asking me questions in my emails and everything else. And so this is kind of a timely topic. But John, why did you want to? What are you saying? Like, why did you were the one that actually presented me with this topic?
Well, it's partly out of there's a little frustration just religion in general because I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 6 years of elementary. And that was a big thing towards the end of my marriage was her push towards, you need to go to church. You need to find God, this type of stuff. And then going and, to satisfy her, going back to church and sitting through these sermons and things and being like, this is not what I grew up with. And this definitely isn't what I've studied and what religion was 1,000 years ago. So I'm kind of confused with a lot of these guys' push towards modern woke religion because it's not today what it was in the past. And if a religion is real, I don't understand how it can just change to the times just so, oh, it's okay now for divorce, it's okay now for abortion. Like it doesn't make sense to me. You know, like the whole idea of divorce started happening because kings wanted to start banging other people legally. And it had nothing to do with like it being beneficial towards everybody or what God wanted. It was some ruling class decided that they wanted the rules to change for them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm inviting Conk here, and I think I might invite Jack Napier as well. Jack, give me 1 second. I'll put you in. Hang on. I got him coming in too. There we go.
Yeah. And that's been part of my biggest problem is everybody, a lot of the guys who turn towards the religious stuff are all, oh, we need to come back to this. We need to get back to this, but they're not going back to anything. They're joining this new modernized religion. And at one point when I was, coming out of school and I was kind of brainwashed a little bit into the blue pill mentality, I could see that, oh yeah, it's time that religion changes with modern times and things get up to gear. But then I get a little older, I get a little further away from that stuff. I start making Muslim friends, and you start seeing people who didn't change their religion at all for thousands of years, and they're still doing things exactly the same way. Like, well, okay, so if God said these things and the Bible was saying the right things and the religious texts are saying the right things that God wanted us to do and operate by, who are we to like start changing things just because it makes us feel better now?
So I kind of delved into that, at least in the beginning parts of my fourth book. And I get into there's a chapter in there. It's called the kosher principle, like Christian kosher, whatever kosher. And I made this comparison. It kind of goes back to what was it? Like the kosher signification for Jews when it comes to like say foods, or like Hebrew national hot dogs are kosher, right? You shouldn't actually be able to eat them, but you send it out to a rabbi and he says, oh, that's good. Okay. Put the stamp on it and it's all right. That's kind of an effect I think that permeates all religions right now, to greater or lesser degrees, particularly when you turn religion into a commercial enterprise. So, and really that's especially in the United States and in most Western countries, that aren't like strictly, religious. That's really what it comes down to. I learned this I learned this interesting lesson when I was in Florida. And if you know anything about the sort of the religious, I guess sphere, let's just say in Florida, I mean, there's a mini church in every strip mall, right? If you go on any Sunday, if you drive around any high school, in Orlando, in Kissimmee, in those areas, really anywhere in Florida, but you go to a high school like auditorium on a Sunday morning, odds are you're going to probably find a religious service. You're going to find like some evangelical, like Siege Church that's there. And all of these guys are more or less, they're in competition with the other guys. They're in competition with the dudes who are, trying to be seed churches themselves, and maybe they get their act together, maybe they don't. But essentially, what it is it's succeed or die. And in my fourth book, it was I talked about the hustle economy, and then I compared that with the kosher principle, because the kosher principle is that it allows religions to add sort of secular things as long as they can sort of find some wiggle room, right? Some way to make it Christian kosher. And I'm not just Christianity, but there's other religions that do the same thing as well. But it's easier to point fingers at Christianity because we lived in the West, right? So
yeah.
So when we see like say feminism, and we see a sort of wokeism in infiltrating modern religions, and again, all religions. Not sure, just people say, well, but my Orthodox religion is bulletproof. We're insulated. No. Give it a generation or two, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But what happens is people go, well, we got to be in a business. We got to get people. We got to get asses in the seats. And so how can we do that? Okay, well, let's go let's let the little ladies speak, right? I mean, let's go against doctrine so that we can get more people in here, and we'll find some cutesy way to make it sound like it's a religious thing. And I'm glad I have you on here. And I see you guys in the waiting room. Just give me a second, Conk. But I'm glad I have you on here because one of the things that I noticed way back in the day, and I've actually wrote some old there's actually essays on the Rational Mail about this. There was a push. And I think it was like towards the late 2000s, maybe into the early 2010s. And it was perfectly positioned at the right time for like MMA fighting coming up at that time. And I even related the story in book 4. I used to work at a casino here in Reno. And back when MMA fighting was sort of in its infancy, it was King of the Cage. Do you remember King of the Cage? Is King of the Cage still around?
King of the Cage is still around, but they do really small shows and.
Yeah, King of the Cage was like was it, man. And I remember when we were only Nevada could have King of the Cage. There was because it was a blood sport. Man, I can't believe they're actually fighting with there no gloves on. They're trying to kill each other. And people of course, guys loved it, right? We wanted to go and see this, and it was a big ticket show, and you couldn't deny it. But it couldn't be done in any other state other than Nevada because that was the fighting state, right? And so we used to host those they were in an octagon, really. I mean, they were in like that sort of cage match kind of thing.
They might have had a square cage.
And religious groups lost their minds. They absolutely lost their minds. They were like, I can't believe we're hosting this here in Nevada and this is degeneracy and blah, 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 blah. And fast forward to like 2010 and MMA is nobody talks about boxing anymore. It's all MMA. It's all Conor McGregor right now. It was all Hoist Gracie back in the
West, in the US.
Yeah. And so now it's all over the place. I mean, primarily UFC is in Las Vegas. I know that. But there was a point where there was this push right around 2009 to right about 2012 to remasculinize, like, say, evangelical churches. And one of the ways they did this was they brought in the very MMA fighters that back in like 2001, 2002, that they were like, oh my God, clutching their pearls to keep the, I can't believe this violent sport is here. They're bringing these guys in because as long as you were an MMA fighter and you could sort of share your witness and you made it Christian kosher. Now suddenly it's okay for the guy to go up there and talk about his.
Comes back down to sales, doesn't it? It's always sales and money. We need to get more women in here because women are spending more money. We need to get anybody in the door so they donate more money. It's always the same idea. It's a grift.
Speaking of more money,
yo.
Jack, I want to apologize to you. You keep asking me to come on your show, and Fridays are rough for me, man.
It's okay.
And I have Conk, and I invited Conk to rulezero today because Conk is sort of I guess you're my religious liaison, Conk. Like every time I do a religious topic, I'm like, I wonder if Conk wants to be in on this. So I wanted to start, and I got Ryan in there. It looks like he's off for right now, but he'll come back, I'm sure. I wanted to focus a little bit more on not so much the religious aspects here, just in the beginning. We'll move on to that here in just a bit. But the reason why I wanted to bring everybody on here, and the reason why I agree with John talking about sort of these religious conversions of guys who were, ostensibly red pill, is because there was this week, and let me put that up there. Where's that? This is from our good friend Goldmund Unleashed, Ryan. And this is Goldmund Unleashed burning all of his books, very similar to what Roosh did about 2 years ago. When did he convert? 2019, 2018? Something like that.
Pre-COVID for sure.
Yeah, pre-COVID. And so now Goldmund has had his religious epiphany.
There goes my revenue. I did an audiobook for him. I did an audiobook for him, and now it's gone.
Yeah. So I want to just read a couple of things here because I thought this was funny because this is the guy, I didn't even know what ayahuasca was until I met Goldmund. And he was the one, he probably pulled it off here already, but there was, because he actually purged like about 300 of his essays off of his blog as well. And I'm sure one of those was his ayahuasca trip to the deep Amazonian rainforest. And the reason why I remember that is because it was at a time when my book, I think it was my second or third book, was starting to take off, and he met some guy that was going to do some shamanistic ayahuasca trip in the Amazon rainforest. And he met somebody who actually knew my book, and so that was like sort of this like spiritual like connection or epiphany or something like that at the time. But I wanted to throw this out there because I don't know what Goldmund's like religious epiphany is. I don't know if he's going to be Christian. I don't know if he's going to be Krishna. I don't know what it is, but he goes through this and he says, during January and February 2020, I sensed a shift. It's like the harmonic conversion, right? And a shift was occurring, and spent much of my time alone in the middle of the desert, screaming at the universe. A selfish, angry wild man with puny fists balled up, shaking them at God and demanding answers. The answers rained down mightily. I faced death head on, and through lightning bolts of full awareness, hailfire, and sulfur, I got scorched, beaten, and salted so thoroughly I had to retreat all the way back into the deep forest I grew up in, the only place where I could reconsider life with a clean mind, sober, without distractions, and at peace. It sounds to me like he's having a moment of clarity here, like most like addicts or alcoholics have that moment of clarity where they kind of have to,
Yeah.
So
but they just say they're not drinking again for 3 weeks.
Not shitting on that. Not shitting on that. Okay. Yeah. And I'm just gonna. I think this is the most salient point. He says, it was at court in the deep forest spirit where these messages arrived on wings. You are not to partake or promote any of the following: psychedelic drug use or any mind-altering substances. Lawlessness, no more living like a wild maniac, answering to no one, and no promiscuous sex. Treat it as a sacred energy, the sacred energy exchange it really is. There's that word again, energy. And so I wanted to start with that because I've got quite a few quotes and quite a few examples of this. But this, I think Goldmund is just sort of the latest addition to the list of guys who were quote unquote gurus at one point. Who have decided that they're going to pivot to sort of like the spiritual grift. And the problem that people are going to have, and I'm already seeing this in the chat, so let me recognize you. Here's that attention you wanted. I realize that it's very difficult to question things like this because you're questioning sincerity of like conversion or conviction or belief or whatever. And the problem that you will always run into, and we're going to run into it in this show today, is that if you question that sincerity, you're literally questioning people's ego investments in that belief, in their belief set to begin with. So I recognize that. I understand that. But I wanted to talk about like why it is that so many of these guys, and we're going to run down the list here, are switching over or pivoting to sort of the spiritual grift. Anybody want to chime in on that?
A very specific spiritual grift. I noticed it's all hitting the exact same beats of everybody's marketing campaign.
Yeah, that was
You know what I mean? It's never I found Jesus. It always I did drugs. Now I found, and it's this vague shit. It's always the spirit, the container. I notice marketing now because I've had to do some. And the instant you hear those container words, those words that have a vague, undefined meaning that you can fill with your own hopes and dreams, my first thought is grift. And I get it, you're not allowed to say that, but luckily I'm some Redditor atheist, so I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I am actually kind of annoyed at, like my family was Baptist, my grandfather was a minister, and I've seen devout people. And I'm actually surprised how gullible a lot of the devout are. That they don't see right through this. Like, is it? I think it's they don't want to see it. They want to hear this, or they think that now that he's in, he'll get there. Kind of reminds me of when a mom skips birth control, doesn't tell the husband, and grandma's like, "Don't worry about it. When it happens, he'll man up." That's all I got to say on it.
Conk, you were saying, go for it.
Yeah. Like when you first read that, my first thoughts came in my head is this is a lot of emotional language saying that he wants to go back to the plantation, right? He's talking about, I did my own thing and it went bad. Therefore, I need to go back and pick my cotton again. Sorry if that's a little verbose, but
No.
it's all emotional language. There was no rational arguments in there. It's clearly an ideology thing and not a praxeology thing.
And by the way, if you're looking for that, all you got to do is go to Goldmund Unleashed. I think it's goldmundunleashed.com. It's his opening page. So just go ahead and read the whole thing if you want, if you think I'm like paraphrasing him unfairly.
So, Conk, you mean the prodigal son?
Yes, that's what's going to be my next thing.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Basically, it seems like these guys got tired swimming against the stream, and they're like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good
I don't know.
It's risk aversion.
But what I
genuine,
wonder,
I feel like they would just shut down and disappear.
But what I genuinely wonder,
if you really had this religious experience and moment, wouldn't you just be like, "This is stupid," and then shut down, take your books down, shut your website down, like go get a job at the Quickie Mart or whatever. Like,
they don't want to lose the option. They just want to pivot.
Take pictures of people's weddings.
Yes.
Like, wouldn't that be it? But it's a pivot. It's a pivot from making money one way to a pivot into making money a different way.
it's a new direction.
Yeah. You're saying, Jack?
Well, what I'm wondering is, and Roosh is the best example of this. So,
he was the trailblazer in this. I will give him that.
He was the trailblazer in this. So he slayed left and right, we presume, so to say. But what I wonder is, okay, now you converted back to God, but you cannot unsee what you've seen. I mean,
right.
Or you have to cope really hard and be like, no, you know what? All the poon I went through, all of them are just low value. And you know what? 99% of women just happen to be low value. I just haven't found that 1%. And I'm like, well, okay, but you have to jump over a lot of hurdles to make that sound plausible, in all honesty. So what I'm wondering is, like, how in the hell are you going to make this believable? And as we're seeing now, either the spiritual or the religious is coming up. And I don't know about you guys. I think you've got more experience than I do in this. But from what I've seen of church girls, they don't care that much about what the scripture says about, promiscuity.
I got Adam. Thanks for
adultery
this
or abortion or.
I know. I already know Conk's answer to this, so you could skip if you want. I say, hi, Rolla. I know you believe in God, but what about the other guys in rulezero? I'm pretty sure I won't answer for you guys. I will also want to add this in there is that, yes, I do. And that's one of the reasons why I do stuff like this, because if I were a sincere believer and this is like my life and my, my ego investment, of course, but also my sincere, like lifetime existential faith in God or something beyond myself, I would be pretty pissed off if I had like Goldman and Jack Murphy, by the way, and all the rest of these guys piling on after what, like, remember, I've been around since
3,000 years ago.
I've been around the red pill for a very long time. I know each one of these guys' history intimately, and I understand where they're going. So when people like throw stuff at me and they go, well, you're just anti-Christian, you're just anti this, you're anti-religion, you must be an atheist. No, I'm definitely not an atheist. And you know what? If you are actually a sincere believer, you ought to be really pissed off.
But Rolo, you're just not a real Christian.
It's like,
you don't believe in the real Bible.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you guys want to answer that, that's fine.
I'm an MMA fighter. If Justin Bieber or some other douchebag starts, walking around with, affliction shirts and putting gloves on and acting like he's a tough guy, yeah, I'm not gonna embrace him and be like, oh, this is awesome. Jake Paul getting into boxing, or if he crosses over into MMA, I'm not gonna be like, all right, we got another one. No, I'm like, you're a phony grifter. Get the F out of my space. And like the answer to the question about believing in God is like, yes, but like what definition? I think that's the biggest thing is people have different definitions of God and what their belief of God is. And I don't think I have the modern time definition of God and believe in that. I believe in the traditional thousands of years ago idea of God as being everything, and all of your actions resonate back into you almost in a oh man, I can't remember the word right now. But like you do bad shit comes back to you. Like I grew up Catholic, but like the modern religion, modern churches do not represent what religion is supposed to be. So like I don't go to church. I don't support church because like I was going to church for a little bit and I was just like, what are these people talking about? Like, why is this a subject that you're talking about today? Like, it's just, they made no sense to me.
Yeah. And I was the man behind the curtain. I've worked in churches from like 2008 to 2014. And I agree with that. And I felt that same way on the other side of the curtain. Everything on Sunday is pretty much how would you put it? It's literally a performance, right? Yeah. The church office meetings on Monday and Tuesday do not look like Sunday, right?
Sunday morning nightclub is what Dalrock used to call it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just as corporate and cutthroat as anywhere else. When you start going to those business meetings, people start arguing about finances and shit. Right. It's not a special holy place. It's literally just another business at the end of the day.
I wish it didn't have that's the one thing that I tried to convey this in my fourth book is I really feel bad about that too, because it's like I think that there's a lot of people who really sincerely have beliefs, but then they get whipped up in this, mishmash or whirlpool of commercialism and this, like you said, cutthroat. They'd be like, you have to outdo your competitors, otherwise you won't end up like Joel Osteen, right? Or you won't have the biggest synagogue, or you won't have the biggest mosque, or you won't have. There's like so much that goes along with that. And in the beginning, actually, of my my book Religion, I make the point that the hustle economy that we find ourselves in as our own sort of personal brand of me, churches have to do exactly that now too. They have to, if you want to be like in women's ministry, you got to have your own self-published book on Amazon or whatever else. You can't, if you're a woman in the church, you can't go and teach in the church. I mean, in any official capacity, although that's definitely changing. So what happens is you get women's ministry and you get these conventions where women go to these conventions and they actually do this kind of stuff where they're doing these talks. And it's really kind of this Tony Robbins kind of, motivational stuff with a religious spin to it. But churches today have to have no other choice but to have their own blog, to have their own, Gumroad course, to have their own, here, come to this, sort of announcements and kind of thing that they have to do in competition with other churches that are in the hustle economy as well.
Flaming red crosses.
Yes. Whoa. But anyways, topic wise, and I threw this up on Instagram, and people thought this was pretty funny. I think Aaron put this up as well. But it's like this was the grift here, right? It's you get yourself built up, you become red pill, you do your thing, and then you find out that then suddenly you go black pill, and then you see these black pill guys now turning into the quote unquote white pill guys, right? So it's that's the negative way to go. We don't want to go black pill. We want to go white pill. It's really essentially just like straight edge for the black pill is what it ends up becoming.
Exactly.
I wanted to show you guys just how endemic this is. So we've just talked about Goldmund. Goldmund was definitely old school. I'd known Goldmund since like 2015. He's always been kind of like hippie, John the Baptist in the woods, screaming in the woods kind of guy. So that's almost a given. Ryan, I'm sure you'll agree. I think Alexander Cortez, Ajax, sort of. You're muted. Put yourself on, Ryan. Put yourself up. You're muted, brother. There you go.
Did he find Jesus at that steakhouse he keeps filming?
I don't know. I really don't know. But
he blocked me ever since I made fun of the whole "I've been to prison, don't fuck with me" shit. So
I think I've been blocked ever since I kind of laughed when he said, what is it? Baking your ring is actually a good idea.
Oh my God. He gave me a gift.
Perineum. Go look it up. It's actually
starfish.
Yes. Yeah. Bake your hole. But that's number one. So I thought Ajax is probably, I would add him to this list, but he's just honorable mention. But first on the list, of course, is Jack Murphy, the lumbercuck himself. This is a big day for me. I'm finally coming out as officially Bible curious, which is interesting to me.
That's not the only thing he's curious about.
Considering his past here, which of course, in case people don't know, like, remember I told you guys I've been in this for a very long time, so I know these guys' histories. This is Jack Murphy cultivating erotic energy from sending his wife out or his girlfriend out or whoever, whatever she is to him, out to a Tinder date to literally get cucked. You can go find this. It's actually still, I think, on Wayback Machine, but this is the shift, right? I've seen these guys go from being sort of red pill players to then suddenly they want to be tradcons or alt-right. I guess in 2015, 2016, it was alt-right, to wanting to be back in the red pill again when it was back in vogue. And now suddenly all is lost. Let's read Ephesians and or is it Ephesians or Ecclesiastes, where we're just like, everything sucks.
Oh yeah, that's Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes. Let's read Ecclesiastes, and then we're all gonna go, God pill right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Let's see, who else do I have on here? Oh yes, let's not forget the latest from Hunter Drew, aka Zach Small, who's decided that he is going to be, I guess, Mormon curious.
Oh God,
here as well.
That's one step farther down the rabbit hole.
Yes, exactly. This weekend I turned into my first general convention put on by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What followed was me driving into the Bible and Book of Mormon to better find my way and path towards becoming the best self, my best self, in order to be the best use to God. So now we've got our good friend Hunter Drew / Zach Small. I guess that's what he's going by right now.
I mean, wouldn't the real play to be Amish curious?
Right.
Go
I'm
full
getting there.
Luddite.
I'm good there.
You know,
I expect Ryan will be going.
'cause that's
The day Ryan turns religious is the day I give up, man.
Well, I left religion. You guys keep thinking I'm just some like whatever. My grandfather, Southern Baptist, he was the minister that trained other ministers. Like they were the one, they had an old 1960 Chevy truck. They only ever drove it on Sunday to church. Like they literally had their Sunday best. Like they were that old school church. They adopted 10 children. And I remember, so he was like that. Never swore. They called each other mom and pa. It's everything you think of when you think of like a Norman Rockwell religious couple. The Baptist priest, his name was fucking Romeo, for Christ's sake. And then all of the kids, all 20 of them, were just a bunch of bullshit kids. I mean, they're my family and I love them. They weren't very Christ-like. And so I saw that, and that's the reason I left, is like the religion that I saw out of my grandmother and grandfather just wasn't there. So I'm like, why would I follow this? And I don't care. And I told my mom, like, look, I don't believe in any of that stuff, obviously. I don't think any of your siblings do either. She goes, well, if you're not going to be in anything, you believe in anything, you might as well be Baptist. And that was the end of the conversation. But yeah, so for me, it's not about the spirituality or the Jesus thing. It's just, I really don't like bullshit. I really don't. And every time I see this stuff, my first thought is, I may not know if you think you're being sincere or not, but this looks exactly like somebody who's bullshitting would say. My aunts and uncles used to talk just like this shit. They used to get the same tussles. They used to get the same prison sentence. They cheated on their wives. They stole money from grandpa, like all that shit. And they all talk just like a lot of these guys do. And that's my problem with it. I've been around the fucking block. You can't fool me twice.
Yeah.
You know how shit smells, and this smells like shit.
It's a horrible skill that I'm glad I have.
See, I'm kind of caught in the middle of all this because, and if you read the last chapter of my book Religion, you'll understand what I'm talking about. My mother was very religious. She was super Turner Burn fundamental. They used to call them fundamentalist Christian fundies, right? She's evangelical, right? And so I got it from that end. My father, on the other hand, was just a dyed-in-the-wool atheist, right? He just did not believe. He didn't believe in anything. No God, no nothing. Like I always laughed when I had people would say, well, we're going to pray for your father, and so he'll find Jesus. I'm like, my dad, it's not the Jesus thing. It's the God thing. He just doesn't. He has no concept of what God is, and he has no belief in any God. So it doesn't matter if it's Jesus, Muhammad, or Krishna, or whoever your prophet is. It's not the franchise. It's the actual principle of there actually even being a God. And so I had to sort of. I've had a very eclectic religious background. Let's just say. And so my father actually sort of instilled in me, I think. If he didn't give me much, but one thing he did give me was the capacity for critical analysis and critical thinking, and I thank him for that. And on my mom's side, it was also sort of like, the spiritual side of things. So that's my balance between those two. If you want more information, I'm not going to get into it today, but if you want to, I go into in quite a lot of detail in my fourth book. Why do you guys think that these guys in particular are doing this? Do you think that it's Ryan? This was the question I was going to ask you. Do you think it's for real, Do you think they actually believe this, or do you think that this is a
got a
grift?
lot on
You
that.
think this is a pivot?
Yeah, and I'm gonna lean on Conk because I'm gonna need some little scripture help on this. All right. Well, it's been a while since I've read the damn thing. If this was a real twist, it would have been quiet. I can't remember. This is where I need you, Conk. You remember that quote where the guy who prays so everybody can see him is not truly one of the flock or something like that? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's one of Jesus's parables talking about prayer in the Gospels.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would like to think if you became Christian, and I'm going to make a reference to Red Pill in this. If you became Red Pill and you haven't read Ian Ironwood, Athol Kay, Rollo Tomasi,
Who's that?
are you really Red Pill or are you just running your mouth with a brand? And I'd found the same people that were talking about Red Pill. Jack Murphy, do you remember we had that talk? He's like, I should write a history book for the Manosphere. And I'm like, oh, do you mean like the book Manosphere by Ian Ironwood in 2016? He goes, oh. So like, how the fuck are you going to write a history of the Manosphere when you forget the fucking book's already out there? I just have a feeling that a lot of these Christian guys didn't even bother to read the rational mail for Jesus, aka the Bible. So I'm like, how Christian can they be? They make a declaration. They make all these cheap signals. And this is why I think it's fake. I don't think they don't believe it. But I think in order to be a good liar, you have to lie to yourself first. So I think you have to believe it 100%. Because then you don't tell. You don't telegraph any lies. It always looks honest. And you don't have to think about a lie. Because you know how lies are hard to keep. Just delude yourself. Now it sounds completely true. If only there was some kind of feminine equivalent to that we can talk about within the Red Pill that had you read Rational Mail, you'd know what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, I don't believe a word of it, but I think they aren't self-aware enough to even fucking know what I'm talking about. So I just sound like a hater. So instead, I'll just post some memes. Lumbercuck memes and call it a day.
Oh, they're coming in, aren't they?
Yeah.
Conk, you're saying?
Yeah. And so like when it comes to this whole thing, it kind of comes down to like we're talking about evangelism, Red Pill evangelism. We've talked about that before. And regular evangelism. Really, when you look at it, it's all supposed to go down to because in the Bible, Jesus was a pretty new guy and they would tell people about it. But once you tell people about it, it's up for them to decide what the hell they want to do with it. When you're trying to shove it down people's throats, it's actually contradictory to everything you should do, right? And, you know, Ryan talks about this. We all talk about this. You can't help someone that doesn't want help, right? They just, so many people will come in and asking for consultation, including me, including pretty much everyone on this panel. And they'll just bitch about how horrible their life is. And I need help. And you point them to some answers and they go, no, tell me more, give me more. Right. It's like, no, dude, this is your journey. Go figure it out. You know, I'm not here to just hear you complain about your day. Right. And it's the same thing with the Bible. It actually specifically says when you go evangelize, they don't take it. They say, shake the dust off your feet and move on. So the fact that people are hampering into this, that this is the solution to everything, and we have to tell everybody exactly this, to me, shows that they don't know what they're talking about, right? They haven't really read any scripture. And I love that you brought up Jack Murphy, because that's something I wanted to bring up, because not only did he do the religious grift now, but he did the political grift too, right? And I see no difference between them whatsoever. They're just switching sides of which kind of collectivism they want. Do I want to be in this in-group or this in-group for my audience at this point, right? It's all the same thing. They did not do their homework, so to speak.
I think that the more notorious you are, like Roosh is a prime example of this. It's not surprising to me that he was sort of like the trailblazer in this like sort of religious pivot, because he is probably one of the most notorious, easily the most recognizable figure who is a quote unquote, you know, pickup artist or whatever. Julian Blank, by the way, pulled something very similar too. Maybe not. Well, maybe you wouldn't call it religious exactly, but he was definitely sort of this hippy dippy, you know, spiritual but not religious kind of stuff. And if you've seen any of RSD's videos from say like 2015 on to where we're at back right now, if you look at Owen Cook and Julian Blank, it's all this positive energy, dude. Let's all just groove and, you know, let's go surfing and smoke a blunt and you know, take peyote or whatever it is, and you know, have a spirit quest or something. It's the same thing. It's the same. Like, I'm going to give up I'm giving up. Like, I can see Goldmund doing pretty much the same thing, right? We're going to give up all of our material possessions, and we're all just going to live, you know, like, you know, I don't know, cavemen in the woods or something, or tribalism. What was that one, Ryan? You showed me that one picture of that guy who was with his kids in the woods, like teaching. Like they look
Oh,
like
yeah.
tribesmen, but they're just like these average white guys and with his white kids there, and it seemed like they're like going back to shamanism or something like that.
Yeah, it was just jorts and axes in the woods going camping. And he's like, return to tradition. And I'm like, dude, this was what like the trailer park types used to dress like. What the hell? But they were so well posed. They were like perfect accessories to his ego.
But I wanted to clarify here, because just because Roosh decided that he wanted to go back to his sort of, I guess, Eastern Orthodox Christian roots doesn't mean that the grift has to be exactly that. I mean, if you go and you look at like Hunter Drew or whatever, Hunter the Mormon now has decided, and probably because Tanner Guzzi is a big influence on him. And again, this is nothing against Tanner, because Tanner's always been Mormon. He
started there.
Always been
pretty
there.
awesome.
So that's not a pivot for Hunter. Or excuse me, that's a pivot for Tanner. That is definitely a pivot for Hunter.
Yeah.
Because it seems as if that, and this is not surprising to me, because when all that shit went down with Anthony Johnson way back in June of 2019, everybody decided that, well, this seems to be the best way to go, or this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. It doesn't surprise me that I see some of the same names that were stabbing me in the back who are now making this pivot, because it seems like that's the best way to go. That's why I was asking you, Ryan, do they believe this, or is this actually just
It's
sort of
self-delusion, man. It's all it is. You have to believe it. You have to make yourself believe it. Otherwise, nobody else is going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think it's it. Like I said, if it was real conversion, we'd probably never know. But no, you have to have it with like an Instagram filter attached. It's ass models of Instagram, except for not as hot. Again, it's like, I don't care. Everybody keeps saying it's just you being a hating. Well, what if their conversion is real? I'm like, dude, what's that saying you have, Rolo? The best predictor of a girl's future is her past behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to red pill you guys to guys. Why don't you just apply that same standard across the board? Roosh, is that real? I don't know. Was it real when he did all of his other pivots? Was it real with Jack? I don't know. Was it real when he switched over to conservatism right at the point when it was perfectly good from a brand perspective?
Right.
Was he great being a tradcon dad the instant Tim Pool started talking about how he's 35 with no kids, and then right then Jack all of a sudden's like, baseball games are my life?
Right. Oh boy. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold the show.
Uh-oh.
Gotta stop everything.
Thank God now I don't have to be the edgy one.
It's the rest.
Hello.
I saw everybody. Oh, am I echoing? Sorry, hold on. I just saw
There you go.
your panelists, and I figured you needed some help.
Love you
outta here,
too,
Ryan.
John.
Thank you.
No, I love Ryan. No. I'm just making fun of Jack as usual.
As usual. I love you too, John.
Love you, Jack. No, just joking. But no, I wanted to give my 2 cents. I'm on vacation right now, and so I'm not live streaming all of October. I'm not doing anything. But I just wanted to talk about this for guys out there real quick. Why these criminals are going God pill. All right. So in my opinion, right, when you get to certain amounts of sexual and financial success, you reflect on everything, because you no longer have the trivialness of day to day. Oh my God, where's my money coming from? Am I going to get some pussy handled? Right. Because that's literally money and pussy is what consumes like the majority of men's thoughts.
Yes.
And then once you have these boxes checked to the point where you're getting endless amounts of both of them, that you're satiated, then you're like, well, what else is there to do in life? And then you just start thinking, well, fuck. You start thinking about life in general, and then everything always goes back to the big question: what happens when we die? Now, I personally, I don't believe in God, and I think when you die, it's just game over. You just fucking die, and it's it. That's it. I used to be in the Pentecostal church. I was in school to be a minister. My mom is diehard religious fanatic. I mean, I think I'm the only person who does like red pill Sunday sermons on my channel with my Bible here. My mom gave me. Right. And so I know the Bible very well, probably better than literally 95% of the audience. And, these guys, what they do is they start to get afraid of death, and they start to get afraid of what's inevitably coming for all of us. And then they have to create some kind of coping mechanism. And because they're not strong enough in their character to just deal with the life we are living, right, and that's eventually going to be taken away from us, that they have to come up with the cope, right, which is, religion. And I just think that these guys they're not man enough to deal with the fact that you're gonna fucking die and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're really not that important, right? I think part of them actually getting on the internet and making a brand or persona has something to do with their ego as well.
Yep.
And so they can't fucking stomach the fact that they're not going to be around. And then they also are not strong enough to hold the beliefs by themselves. So they have to go to their audience and like create a little tribe. Like, oh yeah, we're all going to go to like some mythical like space land. Like when you die, like we're going to go to like in the sky and we're just going to live forever because we're so important. Right. And you're not. So, and another thing is this too. I think it's just it's the newer grift, right? Because the sexual marketplace has gotten harder to the point, like, I would say, I think America was good for dating up until 2010. Then it started getting harder and like ridiculously hard now, right? And so, guys have also increased in their patheticness as well. So, what's the God grift? Oh, you don't need to change; just come as you are. Oh, you don't need to approach.
You're perfect.
You don't need to adhere to a diet. You don't have to go to the gym. No, just don't jerk off. And even if you do, ask for forgiveness. We need to come back to God, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a new scam because it's hard. It's actually hard to fucking coach guys. It's hard to help guys get results. It's very, very hard to do. But if you do it and you're very good at it, like I am, like the guys in this panel are, it's extremely fucking lucrative. And another thing you find out is 95% of guys don't want to do the work necessary to become the man that gets the girls. You have to change. It's not, you can't just stay the same. If your life sucks, you have to fucking change. And a lot of these guys are just comfortable, and they're not. They're like Pink Floyd's song, right? Comfortably numb. They're comfortably uncomfortable, and so they don't want to take any action. They don't want to go on a diet. They don't want to fucking do anything like that. And hey,
I had a class Thursday night. A kid left before the warm up. I was teaching him the warm up, and the kid left before we finished the warm up because he was frustrated because we were doing like basic fundamental stuff. Mm-hmm. He like wanted to learn some ninja magic move that was going to make him tough.
That's always been it, though, right?
No, you got to do the shrimp drill. You got to do the basic warm up shit first.
Yeah. Wax
a lot
on,
of shrimping.
Yeah. Speaking of don't jerk off, then we've got Mike Cernovich here from 2014. Semen is a man's life force. If she cheats, this means your life force is weak, needs rebuilt. When you have super serum, they never leave. Wow, sounds an awful lot like this one. I'm not a full-blown semen retention, but this magical power is undisputable. Get used to having sex without release, and if you do release, make sure she receives it. It's one thing to gift it to one deserving, but it's a self-disrespectful to intentionally spill your seed. There you go.
Gay.
There's your religious guys. There's your religious pivot.
I'm going back on vacation. I'll see you
all right, man. Go back to sleep. I want to put that on there because I also pulled this one from Mike Cernovich. This is just recently. Even if you don't think God is real, you're wrong, but that's okay. I was once wrong too. There's a place within you called spirit. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter religion. It just matters that there's some sort of God force that you believe in, right? Something deep inside. Most of us never have to go there because only great physical pain can lead the way. Sound like trauma? You find yourself there in spirit. And I know that by me even just posting that up there's going to be a million people in the chat and my commentary right now are going to go, hey, man, you can't question that. Because questioning that is questioning their sincere beliefs in something close to that, right? That's why I don't want to call this about Christianity, because that right there is not Christianity. That's just like, believe in the Oganza,
Yeah, that's something I noticed in that language too. Is they're using the same emotional language that they use to like sell their new supplement of Gorilla Big Dick Energy,
Gorilla Juice,
right? It's
Well,
the same stuff. If you do this, then no girl will ever leave you, and your truck won't stall, and you'll get better gas mileage, right? They're trying to sell their religion as if it's some kind of supplement for their life, which is literally the antithesis of like everything the New Testament ever said.
I actually made a list for this. These are the guys that I know who have made the religious pivot. Okay. Number one, of course, is Roosh. Number two is Cernovich. Cernovich was very red pill for a while, like, bang chicks, this, that, whatever. Then he went really political. Then he got married. Then he had kids. Now suddenly he wants to become, daddy guy. He wants to be wise daddy. He wants to be patriarch. And so that requires a shift to a more religious
daughters too,
grift.
so that could play a big role in
that too.
Also.
Yeah. So that's and then there's Milo Yiannopoulos, by the way, who has decided that he is suddenly heterosexual and now wants to be some form of Orthodox Christian. I don't know exactly what it is. Okay. Let's discuss that. Do you think Milo is pivoting to religion for brand?
I think he'll be a great mega church preacher, because isn't that the pathway to sucking dick in an airplane? Or an airplane lobby?
Oh.
Is that too soon? Too soon?
Shot. Kill shot.
Yeah, I didn't forget about that. You guys forget about it?
Nope.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Pastor Mackenzie who taught him to give great head? Something like that.
Right. Well, again, and I hate this because it's, we're going to talk about Prodigal Son here in just a second. That's why I wanted to bring you on here, Conk, because I know we're going to get into that conversation. Let me finish the list though. But then we had Goldmund, as I already mentioned, Jack Murphy making the shift, Hunter Drew actually making the shift. Then you look at a guy like Julian Blanc, who is not necessarily religious, but like very kind of like woo-woo magical, hippie guru guy. And then of course you have this dude right here, Tucker Max. Now, I don't know that necessarily that Tucker Max has gone like super religious or anything, but I wanted to throw him on here just so I can show you the progression of what I call the script. Okay. The script is you're this incorrigible bachelor in your first book. I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, where he talks about, having anal sex with co-eds in college. And just go and remember, this is the #1 New York Times bestseller. I think when was that? Like back in 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely the odds.
Yes. And then he gets with this chick right here who he ends up marrying and having a kid with. And I think it was because he knocked her up is why they got married. And then right around 2014, Tucker Max and your good friend Jeffrey Miller, PhD, Ryan, decided that they were going to do a book called Mate. And that's the shift. Now his face is gone and her face is in. And this is if there's a definition of the purple pill in 3 images, this is it right here. It's trying to make red pill work with your old blue pill expectations and hoping that things are going to work out for the best. But this is also what I would say is definitely a brand pivot right there. Going from one extreme to the other extreme and hoping that people will find you ingenuous enough to buy your book or whatever else. Now I don't know that he's necessarily religious, but that is sort of proof of concept, at least as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to, I'm going to suddenly become religious. When it comes to Roosh, Roosh went through his things, but it's funny to me that all these guys have like taken magic mushrooms or they've done ayahuasca in the past. Like I know Goldman has, I know Jack Murphy has, I know that Cernovich has done ayahuasca in the past. And so suddenly it seems to me like there's this, if you turn your brain into silly putty, then suddenly you have a religious epiphany at some point along the way. And then last but not, so that was that. I got Tucker Max. Oh, and then last but not least, let's not forget our good friend.
I was wondering if this is going to make the cut.
Oh, it's going to make it. Yes, definitely. This was August 23rd, and I'm not Tristan knows I love them, okay? But here, I've converted to Orthodox Christianity. I intend to practice Christianity forever and raise a Christian family. This is no joke. Talk about screen cap it immediately. That was me.
Oh, by the way, when you tweeted that out, did you catch the quote tweet from it?
No, I didn't.
He basically called you stupid because you didn't understand that he has such powerful Romanian people he's got to appease. So he literally said, I lied about it for clout.
So is that a pivot?
And owned you with it.
Yes, it is. But that's what I'm talking about. Whether whatever your sincere religious beliefs are, I think if you are a sincere, convicted believer in whatever religion, I don't care what it is, when you've got guys who are making their brand of me pivots into your sincere beliefs, that's when you kind of have to like raise an eyebrow at some point and say, what the hell's going on? But we don't do that, do we, Conk? We go, come back to the fold. Welcome to the family. Because this is what I call, and I mentioned this in the book, this is what I call the prodigal son grift, which is what I see all of these guys doing, no matter what their sort of religious epiphany is. What that is that, and Roosh is a fantastic example. I could pick on any one of these guys, but Roosh is the easiest one, is that you go from being this incorrigible bachelor, this red pill pickup artist, your notch count is in the, I don't know, quadruple digits, whatever, allegedly. And then suddenly you have this religious epiphany, you have a near-death experience, you were almost in a car crash or whatever it is, or something very crisis-inducing, trauma-inducing in your life. And now suddenly you see the light. I see the light, right? It's like the Blues Brothers. I see the light. And that's what I think a lot of believers if those guys come to your religion, it's literally the dynamic of the prodigal son that is in the Bible, right? And what happens in the prodigal son? The son leaves the fold, leaves the family. Father, give me my inheritance. I'm going to go out in the world. I'm going to blow it on hookers and blow, right? And just go out and live the life and seek my fortune. And suddenly I piss it all away. And I use all of my talents and all of my gifts and all of my energy and all of my money and everything else. And it amounts to jack shit. And now I got to come back to the family with my tail between my legs. And I gotta beg Father's forgiveness, and we're gonna. I'd rather eat with the pigs in my father's, stables than be out here in this shit, in this degenerate world. So they come back to the fold, and what happens? He's welcomed with open arms. Come back, my son's come back to me, and we're gonna slay the fatted calf, and we're gonna have this big gigantic party. And so you're back in. I'm going to put my ring. You get a ring on your finger, and now my son has returned to me because he's finally seen the light. And in book 4, I mentioned this as well, is that the prodigal son dynamic is that it is not so much. It's useful for the guy coming back, the prodigal son himself, obviously, to believe in that. But it's also the expectation of that guy that if he comes back to the fold, that he will be welcomed with open arms, because that guy coming back to the faith is confirmation of people who never left the faith. So when you see Roosh on these podcasts with these very religious women who say, "Oh, it's so good to have you. You are an incorrigible PUA. Let's talk about that and talk about your conversion and welcome back into the family, brother. Welcome, prodigal son. Let's slay the fatted calf and have a party for you."
They're almost epiphany phase women.
Almost. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, Conk, what do you have to say about that? Like the prodigal son dynamic. You primarily brought you on because I wanted to talk about that.
Oh yeah, it's about to get interesting, and it's kind of going to go back to most people don't understand the scripture from when it's written, but the point of that story was the older brother was the bad guy, right? And he was the religious one.
He's the guy who never left. He's the faithful one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the bad guy in this scenario because he's the one that's spiteful and angry of people that change and do things, right? It's the younger brother is actually supposed to be a small part, but people blow it up into being the only part. But the point of it is that the religious people want something for what they're doing, right? They want to be celebrated and enjoyed because they follow the rules and that they, browbeat and they tithe and they do all of this stuff. But the point of that, and this is specifically Jesus speaking. It's not even just some random other author that's in there, because most of you guys know, like, Jesus didn't write anything, but the 4 Gospels are about his story. So when he says something, it's significantly more canon than what other people say. Shit, it's kind of how it goes. But the moral of the story was that the conniving, pissed off Pharisee, who was the religious guy of the time, he was the pastor, he was the priest, he was the patriarch of the time, so to speak, of how they do it. He was the bad guy because he was bitching about everything. The younger son had very little to do with it. And it's very interesting that how I'm seeing all of these people grifting and trying to call this, I'm doing the prodigal son thing. They're just trying to be the Pharisee. They're trying to re-implement the rules and re-implement the collectivism aspect of it, right? And it kind of goes to what John Fitch and I were saying at the very beginning, that like with the Goldmund thing, it sounds like he's just doing a lot of risk aversion and going back and quitting doing it himself, right? But it's not that they're the young self coming back to God. They're the young self going, oh, I'm going to go be the older brother. You know what I mean?
Why
We're
does
not
this
coming
sound
back
like
to God.
Cobra Kai, where they tried to make Johnny into the good guy?
Kind of do, right? I know.
Yeah,
Well, we are joining Cobra Commander.
Yeah,
Hey!
yes, you are. I actually have that silver mask, by the way.
Nice, they're
got
fun,
it?
man.
Suggest that I should have worn it today.
Nice.
Here's a maybe this is a panel question here is, do you think these guys have nothing left? Do you think they're like all out of juice? Like they're all out of gas, so this is the only direction they can go? Because I have a theory about this, but I want to get you guys input before I give it out to you. Do you think this is the last stop for the red pill for these guys anyways?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mix of both. It's both that they might be running out of ideas or juice to sell their current pivot. So therefore they might find it's both they're running out of steam here, in addition to they're seeing a gold mine elsewhere. They're looking at the grass on the other side might be greener, kind of thing.
But do you think they're like at the, I don't say at the end of the ropes, but do you think that they're kind of like, because here's my theory is this, is you look at a guy like Roosh, who right at 40 years old, not much to show for himself in 40 years. Okay. No steady girlfriend, and maybe this is sort of a personality disorder or something like that. Cause a lot of these guys seem to me as like, they're kind of like loners who just sort of found the red pill and made it work for a little while, but they're just not quite right. I mean, I can remember when I had, my daughter was born when I was 30 years old. Okay. I'm not saying you got to have kids to be a real man or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's like sort of this life progression, I think. And then, when you get to a certain point in your life, you kind of look back and say, well, what have I got going on for myself? And what have I done in that period of time? And so there's that. And if the answer to that is nothing, well, then maybe you're just sort of have nothing left to lose, right? I mean, maybe you're at your end of your rope kind of thing. And that's, so religion is really the only thing you have left.
But I find that strange in Roosh's case. And because he didn't have nothing. I mean, he had an entire community, multiple books, a very good website that was creating revenue and things like that. And he was helping guys out with their reproductive problem. At a certain point, he kind of went off the deep end with the no gays allowed thing. Or something like that.
Oh, neo-masculinity.
Where's that, boys? Yeah,
something like that. But God. I mean, besides from that,
I wish that video was still up. The schism video.
Oh God! But it's not like he wasn't productive or anything. He just decided to throw it all out because for some odd reason. And this is something I wanted to address as well. Rolo, the last essay in preventive medicine, crossing the abyss or crossing the Rubicon?
Crossing the abyss.
Crossing the abyss. It's like there's a new truth and you can find peace in it and make it work for you. And for some odd reason, I get the feeling with a lot of these guys, and Ryan has already pointed this out on me, but sorry, Ryan, benefit of the doubt. I just have the idea they never completely crossed it. It's like we went PUA, we had a lot of poon. Now what? And instead of saying, well, we know how to get girls, but can we keep them? I mean, Rolo married for how long? Over 30?
25 years? As of July.
Ryan, common law marriage, 12, 13, something like that.
Somewhere around there. I honestly can't remember anymore. It's been that long.
Like, you managed to actually build something up with someone of the opposite sex and things like that. John Fitch, I don't know your situation. I know Rich has an LTR and MLD, whatever he's doing, he's fine. But you got something out of all the, let's say, PUA period. Although Rolo wasn't really PUA, or was it just I play guitar, poon gets thrown at me?
I was proto red pill. I was proto game.
I am the game.
The larval stage.
But these guys, for all their dating and plowing through poon, they never managed to pin one down, so to say. I'm not saying that's the ultimate goal, but I do think men want a steady plate relationship, whatever you want to call it.
It's nice.
And it is. It really is. You love to be annoyed by them, is what I tell Cappy, is when he gets off again, when he goes off again. But these guys didn't do it. And I'm like, okay, maybe their last solution is skipping all or throwing all the red pill stuff away and thinking, you know what? If she's religious, then I'll find her. And
so they're all looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah, maybe
More or less.
in the wrong place, because now they think, oh, it's just these slutty party girls who are like this. It's not the religious girls. And that's what I meant with they never cross the abyss. They still believe in that final little lie where it's like, there has to be a woman out there who's
They believe in this girl right here.
Bingo.
Christian,
Oh yeah,
Christian
That was
woman
such a
who
red
loves to,
flag.
did you see this? The Christian woman who loves to sing, read, dance. I'm shy and introverted, but goofy. I love to laugh. 5'4", so it doesn't matter. So you could be 5'6" and still be taller than her.
Dude, that's the
30.
personification of that
30.
stupid meme you use about the
Right.
trad wife one.
The asexual yeah.
Yeah.
I
She's
love
playing Tradcon
video
Mad Lib.
games.
Yeah.
I love video games and anime. I go to school for registered nursing. I don't sleep and kiss on the first date. I have morals. I respect myself and I respect you. Don't do friends with benefits. Don't mess with married men or taken men looking for commitment, marriage in the future. I work, cook, and clean. Is this a catfish or is this a catfish?
She is either 30 or a
It's a pick me.
catfish.
Yeah.
As
There's
a-
a
Somebody
good- there's a
said
good
that was
comment
a
in
stock
the
photo, so I don't know, but go ahead.
there's a good comment in the chat from this John Lumley guy. He says I think it's burnout. Is it possible to have too much pussy? And like this is a thing I can really see as something that these guys maybe go through is when you date a lot of girls, like it becomes very redundant. You have the same first and second date a lot of times. Like you have the same conversations, you tell the same jokes, you tell the same lines, and I could see if you do that for 10 years, you could get very like, what is the point? Why am I doing this? It's all the same. I need God and I need my godly woman.
Troy, what do you think about all this? Welcome, my friend.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us. I didn't know if you were going to make it or not.
No, I managed to pop in. Good stuff, guys. I was just at church actually, so
Oh, good.
Did you number close or kiss close?
I got closed.
You got close?
I'm here to share the good news. Yeah, I just listening to the last little bit. Then, I mean, I'm not sure that they're all looking for girlfriends. Really, I think maybe some of them are. I don't know. I think they run out of imagination. To be honest, I think it's just they get to a point where they are burnt out by it, which is fair enough. But I think there's a certain naivety that is. There must be a point to life. There must be some salvation somewhere. I've tried to seek it through anonymous sex, promiscuous sex. That hasn't worked out. So actually, the marriage and the white picket fence, that must be the way. So then they latch onto that. And then they latch onto, or they latch onto religion because they're looking for some sort of certainty. Mm-hmm. But what if you just accept that maybe there is no certainty? Maybe there is no grand plan. Maybe there is no overarching meaning to any of this. And once you've accepted that, then you kind of think, well, there's no need for me to turn to religion. I could just carry on with doing what I'm doing. I mean, by all means, have a spiritual component to your life, but you don't have to turn into a nutter. Not a nutter, you don't have to turn into a religious zealot. You could just carry on dating different girls, traveling around, having a good time, as long as you balance that with something with some more substance as well. But I think the problem with these guys is they probably do burn out, but then they've I think, like Jack was saying, they've still somewhere in their head, they've still got that sort of slightly blue-pilled idea that somewhere there must be some certainty, somewhere there must be some meaning, and they go and search for that.
Right.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Well, and then you also have to remember this is we're also dealing with besides Jack, maybe, we're not in a generation like we had like Gen X or even really like the first part, at least the first half of the millennial generation, where guys had an idea of where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do in life. I keep seeing, I'm probably going to do this tomorrow, my show tomorrow. I keep seeing all of these clips of guys chiming in on the guys are purposeless. In fact, I did that. I did basically a topic with Sterling Cooper and Justin Waller last week in Tahoe. If you've seen that video, addressing how we have this generation of lost boys, and we have actually, I think we're almost into the second generation of lost boys now that Jordan Peterson was talking about. And you want to know why like guys like Jordan Peterson are a big deal is because they play on that that idea of, well, look, there must be more meaning to this. They're not looking for purpose, they're looking for meaning, right? And as Ryan has said in the past, meaning is a container word. You can put whatever the hell you want to into it, as opposed to, this is what I want to do, this is my direction I'm going, and this is my purpose. And guys are, of the last at least two generations, I'd say, are definitely the most purposeless generation there has been. And so it seems to me like either you go MGTOW and get all bitter and pissed off, or you go black extreme end of MGTOW and then black pill, or you can go quote unquote white pill, and there's hope, and we can all just be monks or whatever and not worry about girls at all, and we just go straight edge red pill. And when I see this, I go, why is that appealing to this generation? And primarily, it's because they're purposeless. Even Roosh, to a greater degree, is kind of purposeless. If you go and you look at a guy like Jack Murphy, who has been trying to figure it out since his divorce like 12 years ago, he's not as, speaking from a perspective of like the Lost Boys, he seems to be one of those guys. And it seems to be like all the guys on my list here in some fashion were at one time, maybe not Cernovich because he's from a different generation. But do you think that it's this sort of aimless, rudderless generation that this is more appealing to?
Of course. Part of it's laziness too, right? Like, look, it's not about, there's no purpose. Yeah, there's no war. There's no standard, white picket fence fantasy. Fine. But that doesn't mean there's no purpose at all. You have to make your own purpose because nobody else is going to make it for you. Their conclusion instead is, I need somebody else to give me purpose. I want Dad 2.0. And for all the good he's tried to do, Peterson has kind of fallen into that role, and he's let his audience kind of drive into that, where he gets basically be like their dad. That's why they got so mad when his daughter was a
dad.
thought.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, internet dad, exactly. Same thing as like the Roosh types. It's not that they found Jesus because they found Jesus. It's that, like you were saying, I don't know if this is true or not, but Zach kind of found Tanner, and Tanner's like, hey, I got this cool thing. You want to try it out? Sure. Which is funny because that's used to be how like those anti-drug commercials be, where the guy's like, come on, man, all the cool kids are doing it. Okay, I'll try this thing out.
Joseph
no coffee,
Smith,
huh?
Not even once. Not even.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So you're looking for direction. Now, obviously, you're not going to get it from mainstream sources. I was just talking with Dr. Seeger over like the last 2 hours over how academia has kind of completely left men behind, and not just left men behind, but vilified them at the expense of like promoting women. So you're not getting them from those classic sources. The church is preaching, man up and marry the hoes. Right. Academia is not doing it. The military's talking op honor. Basically, they got nowhere else. So who's the biggest megaphone now that's pro-man? And unfortunately, it's like social media grifters.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. Influence. Guys who are really good at marketing aren't very good at researching. So the very best marketers, by definition, are the guys that know the least about what they're talking about. And that's assuming they're genuine, sincere about it, which I already said I don't believe. So what you have is the lost being led by the willfully ignorant. And of course you're going to get stupid shit. That's how you end up with this black pill or MGTOW. Because a bunch of incel guys who can't get laid, don't know how, and didn't even want to bother, found the biggest megaphone there, leading a bunch of flock away. Yeah, guys, join me on Whammon Ain't Shit. All right, let's do it, man. Sounds good. It's almost like a dad. It used to be a trope in movies. Do you remember this Rollo? Older movies in like the 70s and 80s where there was like the lone hero, but there was always like some orphan kid who just followed him because the kid had nothing better to do?
Followed
him so like Six String Samurai, which used to be an awesome movie, now it's the fucking life script for guys. And I just laugh at the whole thing. I'm like, look, if you just want to get fucked over by following the wrong person, follow one of the standard ones. They seem to be doing just fine. At least then you don't have to be embarrassed. Like if you want to join academia and cuck yourself into that, at least then you could be like, I'm a professor. No, I've decided to join. Who's that? What's the MGTOW guy that just got outed you were pointing out? Waffles or something?
Wheat Waffles.
Wheat Waffles. Like, I'm going to follow a guy named Wheat Waffles with an anime Avi. The whole thing bothers me.
Honestly, I think Wheat Waffles is a troll trolling the trolls. Yeah, essentially that's what it is. He speaks the right language, and bravo, Wheat Waffles.
I gotta get in that grift.
Keep going.
I hate
Waffles is actually a bit of a low key chat. He's actually not a bad looking guy.
Yeah.
I just don't care. That's the thing. Like, why do I want to hear about fucking from guys who aren't fucking? And if he's grifting the fuckers by being a good lying guy, then I'm going to pay about as much attention to him as I do to Roosh, which is essentially outside of this specific 2-hour podcast, zero occupation with my time.
Yeah. Let me throw this out there real
people
quick.
tend to be followers, don't they? And I mean, religion is just the ultimate form of following, isn't it? Like Ryan said, it's a pre-prepared narrative. Here you go. Here's the instructions. There's a pot of gold with a rainbow. Go and have at it. And you know, and the opium of the people, right? And you know, it's a very beguiling opium, you know, for many people. But it's ultimately because we want certainty in this sort of cruel and random and slightly meaningless world that we inhabit. But
we want law and the chaos is what we want.
Exactly. But actually, when you think about it, if you think, well, actually, I believe what happens is when we die, you know, our consciousness goes and there's nothing else beyond that. Then, to be honest, if you spent your entire life screwing around with a load of attractive younger women, would that be such a bad thing? No, probably not, right? But I mean, there's this misconception that we need to find meaning. There's this misconception that we need this sort of greater thing outside of ourselves. But ultimately, if you accept life on life's terms and just realize that when you're gone, there's no point in that. You know, you might as well just go and get laid and have a good time at the Cancun phone party.
Yeah, and if you want to do something else, go do something else. And when you're done with that, be done with that and be okay with it.
Right. Let me throw this out there real quick because I have to address this because I was going to talk about Kevin Samuels because I see Kevin Samuels talking about like oddly enough right after I put my my Audible book for religion come out, that's when he decided to do sort of these religious topics all of a sudden, which not saying he pulled them directly from my book, but let's just say they're very similar themes. You know, what do you say? There is already Kevin Samuels. If you want a family, don't listen to Rolo or the rest of these crew here. Well, let's see.
It's almost if Rolo has a family.
It's almost like I've been married for 25 years. I have a daughter who's 23 years old who is actually doing her master's work right now. And I don't think it's any big secret that I have what a lot of guys would want as a pretty good marriage. You know, if you're going to make it work, this is not proof of concept, but it's certainly a good, you know, a good template anyways.
And did you know he likes dogs as well?
I do. I love puppies on top of everything else, right? Yeah. So I hate it. I love it when I can't win, by the way. It's like either I can't be red pill because I'm married or I can't be married because I'm red pill.
Well, why? What do you expect? You're talking to guys who don't have this shit, and you're asking them to judge who's better at it. Of course, they're not going to fucking know.
How can you be a pickup artist, Rollo, when you're married?
Yeah, exactly.
Show them receipts, guys.
Yeah, some single incel is saying Rollo can't teach you how to be a family man. Like, how the fuck did you come to that conclusion? What experience do you even have? It's Dunning-Kruger. 100%. I don't know anything, but this guy makes me feel better, so he must be more trustworthy than the guy with a family.
Yeah. Captain Herring, my father died last week. I'm sorry, brother. Here's a shout out to all the dads who were quietly get things done with no thanks or appreciation asked or given. That's interesting because I wanted to also talk about like how I think it kind of depends on the religion, but like one thing that I've always struggled with is like the idea that you should be like this sort of servant soul. Like maybe Kant can speak to this when he comes back, but it's like one thing, at least I think in Christianity and maybe and certainly in Islam as well, is to be a good sort of servant or to be sacrificial. Yeah. And I mentioned this in book 4 as well, is that to be a guy is to sacrifice, right? To get things done with no thanks or appreciation asked for or given. We're not allowed to complain. And in fact, when I make videos about how men are not allowed to complain, people say I'm complaining because I actually draw attention to the fact that men can't complain. We're not supposed to complain. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be serviceable and take it on the chin. Right, get out there. It's a man's world anyway. It's a patriarchy. What's wrong with you? You know, and responsibility. You should be better than you are. Really, what it is it's this. There's I think maybe even on an evolutionary level, there's this perspective that men need to be self-sacrificial. It's like kin altruism. Die for the tribe. Die for your wife. Die for your kids. Die to yourself. You know, carry your cross, be serviceable, do unto others before they do unto you, as they would do unto you, right? I mean, it's this, what is it?
Set yourself on fire to
Let's
keep
just say,
others
die to
warm.
yourself, right?
Mhm.
And that's I think a lot of guys have a real problem with that, because if you are if you're this red pill aware guy and you want to put this stuff into practice, it's like the laws of power. You don't have to use every law of power or agree that every law of power is ethical or moral. It's just that you need to know those, right? So I don't expect there are certain guys who are never going to spin plates, but they still should be aware of intersexual dynamics that the red pill teaches them, right? The other problem I have is, like, guys will say, well, I'm red pill, Rolo, and I don't believe in premarital sex, and I'm a Christian, or I'm an Orthodox Jew, I'm an Orthodox Muslim, whatever it is, and I don't believe in premarital sex. How can I use red pill to sort of better my life? And my answer to that has always been, it is more incumbent upon you to know if that's the case. If you're really sincerely that guy who doesn't believe in premarital sex, first of all, good luck. And then second of all, it is, I think, more, there's less margin for error in your case. And so you have to know this stuff. You have to be fully aware of your nature, women's nature, and just sort of the interaction between the two of them. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that there's like maybe an evolutionary component, or at least a psychological component, to men being sacrificial?
There's a cultural type component.
It's very sacrificial. Burn all your books.
Yeah, religion was the first government, right? It was the first science. So there was a lot of control through religion. You have to do these things for the whole of the group. Even when we were caveman sitting around fire, there was religious elements, like you have to do things this way so everybody gets by. I think it's just important to remember that there's a lot of control over you and your actions through religion that aren't necessarily better for you spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that, like, the self-sacrificial side, you can distill that back down to, like, eggs are expensive and sperm is cheap, right? It's like you die for the tribe. It's kin altruism, essentially, is what it is. It's dying for the tribe to ensure that your genetic legacy goes on.
We watched Troy the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, these tens of thousands of men just running at each other with spears and shields, for what? Like, what were they really getting out of that? And that was like honor and whatever, defending your people, defending your land. And
defending your king's land.
Defending your king's land.
It's funny how useful sacrificial men can be when somebody wants to achieve some shit, huh?
Yeah, and like that was the thing, though, is that they're all gung ho about it because they're convinced that there's glory in the fight, and as long as you die well in the battle, like the gods will be happy, and you'll have a better place afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
What was your article, Rolo, on that, where girls talk about chivalry because it serves them to talk about it their way?
Oh yeah, it's the
sounds
honor,
familiar, doesn't it? With the same as honor and glory.
Yeah, it's the honor system, and I've said this in the past, is that women do not have that. You want to talk about like gendered concepts? When I talk about like how men and women have different concepts between love, and they have different concepts, gendered concepts of respect. Part of that also goes to honor, like honor, duty, loyalty, that kind of stuff. That is those terms, anyways, are definitely gendered concepts. And personally, honor is one of those things. And how do I define that? Well, when we talk about like commitment, like when women say, "Oh, men are commitment phobic. They won't commit to me." They just want they're have fragile egos and they're infantile or whatever. It's like, no, men are more into commitment than women are. It's only that women only define commitment as marriage, as commitment to them. That's a gendered concept. They only think about commitment in those terms. Men can be committed to a business, to their family, to the military, you think about all of the things that men commit to in a lifetime. To call them commitment phobic is disingenuous, and I'm being nice about that. So
serves the purposes.
Yeah, it does, and that's the romantic ideal. To be a man is to do what women want you to do, and that also, by the way, filters into religion right now. Is what was it? I know Kevin Samuels was talking about this, but in my fourth book, I mentioned when I was talking about how these really evangelical churches are sort of getting into the hustle economy. Part of that hustle economy was they have and maybe Conk knows this, they have these I won't call them conferences, or maybe they're like women's ministries or something like that for single mothers. And the idea is to get those, man up and marry those sluts. That's what Dalrock used to say. Not my quote. That's from Dalrock, but man up and marry those sluts. And one thing that religion represents to women, particularly in the epiphany phase, and if you've read my essays about this, you'll understand, is that when they get to their rope's end, and it happens faster for women, when they get to 28, 29, 30, 31 years old, that's when they go through the epiphany phase. That's when they want to get right with God. That's when they want to make you jump through hoops. That's when a beta guy looks a little bit better than the alpha guys who they couldn't lock down because that guy has benefits. And he seems like somebody who's going to be loyal and dutiful and is a good, good candidate for parental investment. Where do I find those guys? In church. Because the guys in church are going to say, guys, I know what you're thinking, but God would want you to forgive these girls of their past indiscretions. It doesn't matter what their sexual past was. It doesn't matter how many dicks they took on Instagram. Doesn't matter whatever it is. They're now daughters of the Most High. So
crazy how God wants exactly what I want when I'm telling you to do it.
Right. And conveniently,
there's actually a one-up
right at 29.
Yeah, there's actually a one-up for it where there is a men's conference called Promise Keepers where they teach the men how to do that.
Exactly that.
What?
Yeah, and it's not even just for the women. They have men's conferences teaching you how to marry up those women.
And how do they go about doing that? What is the primary thumb screw for those guys to make them do that?
Oh, dude, they do a lot. They love talking about shore play. That's a big one for the tradcons. They love talking about,
serviceability, sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's here's your top 5 duties that you need to do to your woman, regardless of who she is or what kind of quality she brings to your life. It's already a given. You have to stay married to them. So here's ways that you could serve that person better, even if they're not a good person. You probably should have never done that in the first place.
It's got real Woman of Wollendorf vibes to it, man.
Exactly. Well, they go through the honor thing, right? An honorable man of God would man up and marry these sluts, right? Essentially, that's what, and I think it's funny because only in a post-sexual revolution society is that even a thing. Because prior to 1965-ish, we wouldn't even be having that conversation. There certainly wouldn't be any single mothers ministries back then. But seriously, there are conferences where they will say, okay, if you're a Christian single mother, come to this conference and buy my book. And again, it's that grift. And I hate it because it's very similar to what I see a lot of these red pill guys getting into. Because now it's not about the red pill. Now it's about wifing up a good girl, finding a quality woman. And now I'm going to shift gears and, Tucker Max, right? Go from serving beer in hell to having a wife kind of thing. And here's how you go about vetting. And here's how you go about doing it the right way. And I think that's kind of a dangerous message to send, just as Ryan was saying, because, now we're the teachers. We're the guys that they come to for advice. My other thing on the agenda here, we're getting close to 90 minutes. I didn't want to go too far over, but I wanted to throw these ones out here just real quick. This is, I believe I got this from, where did I pick this up from? I think this is Religiosity. Is associate. There are multiple ways to facilitate. I'll give you guys the link to this. There are multiple ways to facilitate aggressive mobilization, but there are, and this goes back to what Conk was saying, to facilitate aggressive mobilization. But there 3 have received significant attention: moralization, rumor sharing, and followership. Sound like the internet? Moralization refers to the process of recasting or framing a position as moral or immoral. Does that sound like the believer versus empiricist, Ryan? Mm-hmm. Either in accordance or discordance with the group's overarching social norms. Moral principles are principles that are just from the perspective of a neutral spectator, and hence moralization is a key strategy to draw otherwise neutral audiences into a conflict, as moralization entails the message that the conflict is relevant from their perspective as well. Thus, a common mobilization tactic is to describe one's own position as a moral position and the position of the adversary as immoral. This can mobilize people not only on behalf of one's own position by inducing the perception that their interests are aligned with the advocated position, but can also have the additional advantage of demobilizing people who might otherwise support the position of the adversary. That's Prodigal Son. Yeah, Prodigal Son right there. If
Well,
a
that's the
position,
DragCon playbook as well, isn't
yes, if a position is broadcast as moral, fear of moral condemnation can demotivate other people from opposing it.
See, too, Rolo, this is why I hate when people talk about alpha and beta as good and bad, or blue pill as in the bad guy and red pill is the good guy, because you kind of have to save the audience from themselves sometimes. You know what I mean? Where they're trying to explain alpha as good and beta as bad. You're like, no, man, it's not it. Like, this is why I always laugh when they call like you or me or John the cult leader. It's like we're the furthest thing from it. We're actively trying to like avoid that entire trap.
By the way, that is from a book. That quote was from a book called Beyond Populism by Michael Bang Peterson.
That is very much the TradCon grift, isn't it? Or the TradCon playbook. And a lot of guys buy into it. So I think they don't really think through the position. They just sort of think, okay, right, moral is this. All right, I'm just going to go along with that because that sounds good. And I think especially on Twitter or something like Twitter, a lot of people I think are posting stuff because they think it sounds good. It's like virtue signaling, and they know they're going to get likes from the people who buy into it. So they don't really analyze what they're saying. They just kind of go along with it. Maybe that's how all religions disseminate. Really.
One thing I notice is, especially in, I guess, maybe the sort of positivity sphere, even in my own, I've noticed this on my Instagram, is if you post some sort of pithy aphorism, right? If you put out like some tea bag leaf, moralism or whatever, like forecast kind of thing, you put that as a post on Twitter, you put that as a sort of like put it in your feed on Instagram, you will get all kinds of conversation over that. You put pictures of your dog, maybe you get 200 people, oh, I like it, cute pooch, right? But if you put something that's like woo-woo magical thinking from the new age bullshit generator, right? You put that on there, people will read their own meaning into that sentence. I think that's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's something about human nature, but it's or magical thinking, like wanting to find something else in there. I can be like vague on my posts on Instagram, and people will either go, what do you mean about that? Even if it's just like a bullshit throwaway post, I'm like, they want to find some sort of meaning within your like mystical, magical words.
That's a Robert Greene thing, isn't it? Though, Jack, maybe you can remind me. But Robert Greene talks about being deliberately vague or sending mixed messages. Actually, mixed messages really draws people.
Send mixed signals. That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that one of the reasons that dating and game get such a bad rap from people is because they just buy into what sounds like the right thing to say. It sounds like the right thing to say. Oh, you get to a certain age, you want something that's more meaningful. You should want something that's more meaningful. You should settle down. You should do the right thing. It kind of sounds right because we've heard that from society so many times. So people go along with it and they just parrot it, but they don't really dig down any further than that. I fear that there's not a great deal of original thought going into these positions, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of these guys who were dating coaches. They sort of think, oh, well, I had a good time in my 20s and my 30s, but come on now, the right thing to do is to do this. Right. God, settle down, be a good boy.
It's the conservative version of the virtue signal, right?
Yeah. But have they really thought that position through, or are they just doing it because that's sort of just what they've heard and they think it sounds right and they think
it feels good?
Well, if they thought it through, they wouldn't need pithy aphorisms.
Right.
Especially the meaning thing. Like, you guys saw that Twitter post, right? The girl from Extinction Rebellion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know the one.
Everyone could just talk about her tits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Doing her would have a lot of meaning to me. That would be meaningful. I would take pride and belief in that. To me, that would mean something, So what the hell does becoming meaningful even mean? Like Rolo says, I meant to do every girl I did back in the day. And I think for the entire panel, that's the same thing. We wanted to bang all the girls we banged. Okay, maybe one or two, you look back and you go, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But
I wouldn't do it again.
You need
the moped.
Yeah.
Everybody has a moped.
That's a good example, wasn't it? That guy's post when he said under Rollo's comment, and he said, oh, just having sex is not the same as an intimate connection or something. And it's kind of, again, you read that and you think, do you really think that? Do you really feel that as a guy? Or are you just saying that because you've heard it somewhere and you think it makes you sound good?
She still
I've
wants
never really
you.
experienced good sex. I've had flings that were amazing, that were just 2 or 3 nights, and just the sex was better than long-term relationship sex.
But John, like a Fitch, the guys who aren't getting sex don't want to hear that. They simply do not want to hear that.
I've had some. I don't know. I didn't know the girl's name. I don't remember her name now. Like, I've had some amazing nights.
But she needs to know my hobbies and my favorite color.
Right. It's me, and I get into it with these guys all the time. Whenever I say there's no such thing as a quality woman, you make that quality woman like your ideal. It's an idealistic prospect, is what it's your one, essentially. It's sort of like a watered down version of the one. You're looking for that quality woman. There's got to be this rare jewel in the rough somewhere out there that I can find. And it's like, when you're doing that, you end up becoming blind to the red flags because you want the quality woman, just like that girl that I was just showing you in the Twitter thing here. She's 5'4" and she's this petite little Christian girl, from Bible study or something like that. And it's like, that is like the ideal. That's a quality woman. You know why guys will get catfished by that? Because she meets all the criteria for that particular, your one, your soulmate, that particular one, the only one that will do, your virgin bride. Right?
Her tits were lacking.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then what John was just saying, though, and Troy as well, is a lot of these guys, and oddly enough, I found this, I encountered this first in the MRA spheres back in the day, is guys who want to who want to shame other guys as sort of an intra-sexual competition, like combat with these guys. It's like a strategy, sort of, push off the rivals, is to say, well, that guy gets a lot of sex. He might be in, triple digits or whatever, but it's all meaningless sex. Qualify it so you can disqualify it. Well, I've never had meaningless sex. It's so much better if you just have someone, one girl. And it's like, no, what that is that's you trying to disqualify that guy having more sex than you are, and having more sexual opportunities, more really reproductive opportunities, so that you can breed more than that guy can. Now, is there responsibilities? And yes, of course there is. Okay, I'm not gonna say that you shouldn't just bang anything on 2 legs and be promiscuous and inconsiderate of everything. But the fact remains is that there are guys that are going to outdo you in the sexual marketplace. And how do you compete with that? Well, if we can appeal to moralism, if we can qualify that sex with moralistic contexts, then we can bring that guy back down to earth. And if we can get that guy to gaslight himself about that, then he's going to question everything else that we want him to do. Maybe he'll even go die in war, right? Maybe he'll hope for a meaningful relationship with his wife, right? Isn't that what Ryan? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that one of the reasons, and I'm not saying this is the only reason, but one of the reasons why monogamy took off is because we needed guys who had a woman at home so that they would have something to fight for.
Yeah, well, not just fight for, but till the fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
You either had to have slaves. Slaves were how they used to do it. The problem is slaves are hard to keep and expensive, and they occasionally revolt. Mm-hmm. And then through just trial and error or experimentation, I don't know how it exactly got there, but they realized, hey, I just give up my 20-girl harem to have like 2 or 3, and now I got 17 wives that 17 guys will work hard to provide for. Mm-hmm. And then it's when they realized sex was the greatest boon to productivity to mankind until they discovered, the Industrial Revolution and the oil barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I noticed too, like I know you like to blame birth control on that, but I think it's the detachment of labor from productivity that's had that big effect on the degradation of a marriage.
Co-enabler for sure.
But yeah, it was a convenient lie that got guys to do what you wanted them to do.
One thing I see a lot of these guys who are shifting over to sort of like the God pill right now is they use that same grift, like they use that same disqualification tactic that I've seen like mostly beta guys use, right? I wouldn't want to have all that meaningless sex. I just want to have one woman and have it be meaningful and have it be my quality woman, my ideal. And you'll see that these guys who used to be all about pickup, notch count, everything else. I mean, Goldmund's a good example of this, right? Cernovich was certainly a good example of this. If you look at the guys who were the most incorrigible PUAs, now suddenly they're using the same tactics that the guys who were like the blue pill guys were using on them back in the day. Well, Roosh might have like a triple digit notch count, but he's just having nothing but meaningless sex. And what does he say? oh, you're right. It was all meaningless sex. And now if you're having it, you're having meaningless sex too. So it's like co-opting the strategy of your old rivals to sort of make it into your new grift right now.
Oh, what was that
Just
quote?
looking
Somebody
forward to
quoted
the,
Goldman's post on that. It was a great, I can't remember, one of you guys sent it to me. Where like you went through all of those troubles and all that hardship, and then the conclusion you came to was that nobody else should do it.
yeah, that's right.
It was fucking brilliant. I wish I had memorized it.
Somebody wrote that under his post. So
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to the John Anthony lifestyles conversion to Christianity.
Oh,
I've had 1,400 visitations from
You
God.
know it's coming. You know it's coming. You know that's coming.
Even Elliot Hulse went that route.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Reyes family. If people get old, you get to do too. Yeah, I did. I mean, I'll tell you the other thing is like I still want to get laid. I still want to have sex. I'm still me, right? And I think that blaming it on age or mature, I'm more mature now. I've got 2 daughters and a little lady at home, right? Is that making your necessity a virtue? Is that just saying, hey, you know what? If I didn't, like, if suddenly tomorrow, like a guy like Cernovich found himself single, you know, God forbid, but like, let's just say he found himself single tomorrow. Do you think he would go back? Do you think he would rely on the God grift, or would he go back to, you know, chicks ain't nothing but tricks and hoes?
Yeah, but you feel real bad about it afterwards.
After my
failed you
divorce,
guys.
I felt so hurt, and I needed
Have
to
his-
find myself.
Yeah, have his
Everybody
Tammy
wants
Faye
some.
Baker moment, crying with mascara fucking flying everywhere. Oh, you know the one.
And I'll tell you the other thing
Turn
is like,
slow.
even at my age, like for me to be red pill and legitimate and show you receipts and everything, I'm not supposed to be married. I'm like, guys, for all I know, would expect me to go divorce my wife so I can be legitimate and talk to them about, like, you know, the stuff that I do, because that's the only way that I'll ever be legitimate in their eyes. And of course, that's a grift as well. But I think that, you know, blaming it on age or maturity or whatever else, it's not so much that. It's like, are you at the end of your rope? And I think that that's where most of this comes down to, because, and I'm going to end it with this. I got a post here. It's actually one of the essays that's in, I believe it's in book 2, but it's called The Script. And the script actually applies to religion as well as other things. But it goes something like this. There's a certain formula for most romantic comedies. They rely on to convey how relations between men and women ought to go. It's an old formula, as in Shakespeare and Greek antiquity old. It goes like this. An avowed alpha bachelor for life questions the existence and nature of love, the sincerity of women, the illogic of not living just for their own self-importance, certainly the institution of marriage, and lives according to his rules a satisfying life. He rationally observes the madness of his friends and fellow men who, when they fall in love and out of it, he mocks their foolishness, not unlike Black Pill and MGTOW guys, or is analytical to the core in understanding their madness. He is an elemental force of one. Sound like a Sigma male, a captain controlling the course of his own ship. He's not wrong in his estimations. They all add up. They all make deductive, provable sense. That is, until he meets her. The one special woman who miraculously, alone amongst billions, has the unique power to bring the facade of all that he thinks he is into stark, insightful self-realization. He's bit by the bug, smitten by the only woman who could fatefully tame the arrogance of his otherwise cruel rationalism. It's akin to a religious conversion. He's seen the light. He's in love, and all for his former concerns are proven to be falsehoods. It's the triumph of true love. The one thing he was missing, the one thing a woman can possess, of course, the last piece of the puzzle he didn't know he was putting together, and has been added to him now, and he's complete. And they lived happily ever after. That's basically the script, right? It's you get to the point where it's like, I'm going to be this incorrigible bachelor. I'm going to be a MGTOW. I'm going to be Black Pill, whatever, until you find some chick who actually gives you the time of fucking day. And now you're going to read all of your love and all your blue pill hopes and ideals into that one woman. And suddenly all that bullshit that you were talking about for God knows how long, that goes out the window. You found God, you found your wife, you're ready to move on and live in a different life. And if you can turn that into a revenue stream or a marketing funnel, so much the better. And I think that's what a lot of these guys are doing. Go ahead.
Here's some pictures of my kids on Instagram.
Right. It's the Tucker Max It's the Tucker Max protocol, let's just say. Also, and again, it doesn't have to necessarily be a religious conversion. It can also be like Julian Blanc. Do you guys remember when Julian Blanc got run up the flagpole for being a just borderline sexual harasser for running game on girls? And I forget which talk show he was on, but he had to go on that talk show and renounce his old ways.
Awesome.
He had to go, hey, mea culpa. I'm not like that anymore. You guys are right. Women are right. The romantic ideal is right. Emotionalism and femalism is right. And I was wrong. I throw myself on the mercy of the court, and I'm going to burn all my books. I'm going to renounce my player past. And now I'm going to fly the straight and narrow. Notice that the straight and narrow is always defined by women's sexual strategies. It's always defined by hypergamy. It's always defined by
somebody told me recently he doesn't even talk about game, even in private.
Really?
Because somebody had met him and hung out with him and stuff, and he doesn't even talk about game at all now. It's just completely verboten.
I sometimes wonder if people like guys who were previously sort of like player class guys, I think that when you build your brand on that incorrigible bachelor, right? You're the MGTOW, you're the John Anthony. When you build your brand based on that, and then suddenly you have this epiphany of this conversion, you burn all your books and you try to start a new page and everything else like that. Trying to pivot that brand is very, very difficult for these guys. Like, I think Roosh is trying to do it and maybe more or less successfully. I'm not really sure, but I don't think a lot of these other guys can do that. I don't think Hunter Drew can do it. Any of these guys.
I wonder if John Anthony converts, then he'll start doing takedown videos of other PUAs who convert. Yeah, look at Roosh. He's not a real Christian, man.
Yes.
Look at my PowerPoint presentation proving. Look at Goldmund. What a beta. He's not as devout.
This is the worst theater that they've ever, man, we used to be entertainers. Shakespeare did shit. Now what is it? Takedown videos.
Right.
Look at how far we've fallen as men.
We used to be creative. We used to be creative in even when we were angry, we were creative. All right.
There's your return to tradition.
Yeah.
One day we all turn into Rage Against the Machine and rage with the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Was it die early or turn into the person you hate?
Oh, Harvey Dent. You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The villain, right? Yeah. Is that where we're at? Are these guys now at the point? Like, is this a natural phase? Is this because a lot of guys will say, well, you get older and you get more mature and your priorities change, and guys go through an epiphany phase, and this is really just the natural progression, like the script.
Yeah, but they're tied to reality. My buddy has a family. His priority changes to his kids. He doesn't decide to fucking uproot his life and convert himself to like Zoroastrianism or whatever they call that one.
But the other thing is as well is the renunciation of everything. And I posted in our private chat, I posted that comment that somebody had written under Victor Pride's, something about Victor Pride, and saying that the key thing is, like, it's fine if you have a change of heart and you want to go in a different direction and your beliefs change. I mean, yeah, sure, that's fine. That's not a problem. But why destroy everything before? And this guy was saying, it's like somebody builds a whole career on being like, yeah, I'm an alpha. I'm like, this is, I don't sway in the wind. I'm strong with my beliefs, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, oh, actually, I've changed my mind about all that stuff. I'm going to delete all that books. And it's kind of like, why not let them stand? That was a point in your life. Now you're at a different point in your life, but don't be ashamed of something. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that's the confusing bit for me.
Yeah. I remember when Dalrock decided he was going to quit blogging and he was going to actually delete his entire blog, his whole archive, like 10 years of work. And like everyone on his blog was like, no, leave it as an archive. Please just leave it. I was begging him too, because I was like right in the middle of writing book 4 and I needed some of that stuff, And so I was like, no, dude, you can't do this. This is like too much of a repository of like just these discussions are very, very important. And thankfully he left it up and it's still there as an archive right now. He hasn't blogged in like almost 2 years, but yeah, exactly. It's like, why would you destroy all of that in the past? And I get it. I mean, you kind of have to, right? I remember when Roosh, I think it was like November of 2019 or 2018, I think, when he was just sort of like, on the fence about all this stuff. And I remember people saying, oh yeah, Amazon just deleted all of his books. Like they just took them off and it's this campaign of censorship. And it's like, no, it wasn't. It was actually him taking them off, trying to figure out if he could like get away with like dumping his stuff and going religious. And then he comes out with his book Girl, and he comes out with his book Game. And then later on, we find out that he's just going to delete. He deleted them all anyways and got them all off of there because he figured that it was probably going to work for him in the long run. So he didn't have to bullshit about it, and he just took them all off. It's the same thing with Goldmund right now. He's following exactly the same template that Roosh was. Although I got more respect for Goldmund because he wasn't trying to bullshit his audience. He says, I'm done, you know? So yeah, I mean, especially when you have that old stuff, but then the internet never forgets, right? I mean, I can go find Jack Murphy's blog post from 2015. But again, it's why do you do that? Why do you feel like you were so adamant? You were so like, even from a moralistic perspective, you really wanted to have this stuff out there. It was very important that was your message to everything else. And now suddenly it's a complete 180. I just deleted it all. And it's like it never happened.
It kind of comes back to that whole blue pill conditioning again. I think where it's like, well, my future wife might find this and she might have an opinion on this. I don't know about you guys. Troy, you told me a couple of times that one of your plates like found your work. And in all honesty,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And one of my former plates found my work as well. And she was like, this is awesome. You help guys who have trouble with this. It's pretty neat. It's kind of a frame thing. Like they delete it. Maybe this is a theory because of the shame it might bring with it, but just own it. Yes, I used to do this. I helped guys out and I enjoyed it. So what? You don't like it? Well, that's your problem. I can't change it. At least I didn't show my ass on OnlyFans. Would you rather me do that?
Yes.
Dude, that's like, and it's old PUA. Do you remember that, Rolo? I can't remember what the term was, but it was when you fuck something up and the girl gets mad at you over it and you go like, this is your fault, right? And he goes, why? It's because you're the one who's dating an asshole. So you kind of knew this was coming.
Yeah, you had to know this is me, right? Yeah.
Well, I think from
signed up for.
I think from experience, some women will be fine, or not fine with it, but some women they'll go along with it. They won't have a big issue with it. Other women will, and those women are just going to move away from you, and you just have to kind of accept that. But I think enough women either think it's cool or they're just not that fazed by it and they don't really care. So it's not something I would hide for that reason.
Like, here's a question I got for you, Rolo. Has your wife read your books?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
she's read all of one and I believe most of two.
All right, that backfired then, because mine hasn't read a thing I've wrote. She doesn't care. Whatever.
I'm curious enough. Now ask me if anybody else in my family has read the book.
Yeah.
Well, she kind of has to, so it's like, but she's curious, especially on the last one. And then also people always ask me that too, like, does she read your blog posts? Although I haven't done one in a long time. But yeah, she used to read my posts too. Or I would go, like, she wasn't like seeking them out or anything like that, but I would go, hey, I wrote a really cool post. I think you might be into this one, right? And so I would give it to her and she'd read it and everything. She knows what I'm about. She has for a long time. How am I going to
have a talk with my girl when she gets home?
No, I mean, it is what it is. And I help enough guys and I save enough lives and do, I do what I do. So she's proud of me. So I'm good with that. I think that we're going to see more of this in the future. Quite honestly, I think that a lot of guys are going to get to the end of their rope, right? And the problem I think most of these guys are going to have, Ryan, like Athol K, is they're going to get to a point where they have a lifestyle brand, or their brand of me is predicated on them being one persona. And when they become something else, or they have to delete all their books, I mean, literally, you've got Goldmund like burning his books. I mean, that's the cover shot of that blog post, is his books on fire, and he's talking about how cathartic it was to burn off his own books and stuff, which was ironic. And he even mentions this, is that there were so many people who are trying, especially his photography books, were trying to get him banned, and now he's doing it himself. Like, he's burning his own books. He's doing what he was trying to like avoid having happened to him beforehand, and now he's doing it. And so suddenly it's this, but it has to be something powerful, right? It has to be something that is like, well, I feel so strongly about this that I took all my books and I threw them in a fire pit and I set them on fire and I took a picture so you guys all know about it, right? Yeah. And that's my final point is this, is like, if these guys were sincere, it wouldn't be a brand pivot. You wouldn't like if Roosh was sincere, I wouldn't be getting his emails, his MailChimp emails. Right?
Well, you see DP in the comments that I assume can only stand for double penetration. Says
Right.
Roosh's conversion is genuine. He did not want to lead men down the path of sin, is why he took that trash down. But I doubt he cares for your silly assumptions. Well, maybe.
Okay.
How do you know?
Thank you
It's
for
still-
your patience.
Either way, whether it's sincere or whether it's not sincere, it is still a brand pivot. He's still now. It's Roosh the pastor. It's Roosh Christ instead of Roosh the PUA. He's still
Jesus
doing
Roosh.
the same thing. He's just rebranding and trying to rebuild the brand based on that persona right now. So whether or not I don't know. I'm not going to question his sincerity. I said that at the very beginning of this show. You can't argue with God, right? Because if I, God told me to do this, then, I'm in the right and you're in the wrong. Prodigal son. Sorry. Ding, ding. All bets are off. It's a win button, and it always will be a win button. But even if he's sincere or he's not sincere, it's a real conviction or not, it's still a brand pivot. You will see all these guys do exactly the same thing. Like Goldman will do exactly the same thing.
Who's the rapper from the 90s that did that?
Is about
Hammer.
Sorry.
Well, not even Hammer. There was the other guy. He rapped with Biggie Smalls or whatever. But like, he had enough of the industry, thought it was slimy, and then he disappeared and became a pastor. But like, he just disappeared, 100%. It wasn't like, hey guys, follow me into my pasture job now. He just vanished.
It's not
Probably
it's
better
not,
than I don't know.
And the other thing is it's not just Roosh. Okay, it would be different if it was just Roosh. Then you might have a point. But it's Roosh. It's Milo. It's Jack Murphy. It's all of these guys. Look at that whole entire list that I read: Jack Murphy, Roosh, Cernovich, Goldman, Hunter Drew, Julian Blank. I mean, and the list goes. Even Kanye West. Kanye West went full on Christian, lost his wife and everything else, right? Is Kanye West going to burn and take down all of his previous music that had something to do with sex or had something to do with, negative energy?
Would.
Yeah.
The kind of thing he'd do.
Is he now going to do nothing but Christian soft rock? Is or rap or whatever? Is that what he's going to do now? Because that's a brand pivot, is what that is. Whether it's sincere or not is kind of immaterial to the point. It's like all of these guys have to find some way. Tucker Max has to find some way to rebrand themselves because they can't go back to that old thing for whatever necessity is present to them.
The only thing you might say, just to slightly let them off the hook here, is deplatforming. Deplatforming is a big problem. Is this a motivation in some cases?
It could be very much so. All right, let's finish up. Fitch, what do you got going this week?
Follow me on Twitter, johnfitch.net, or sign up for my newsletter, johnfitch.com or johnfitch.net. I have a new free intro to practical self-defense course. I put it up on Gumroad. I sent it out in the email. So if you're on the email list, you already got it. But it's live on Gumroad, and I'll start promoting that. So if you're following Twitter, you'll be able to access that. Give you a chance to own your space, keep yourself from getting punked by people out in the world.
Every time I see a fight video, I always at you. What did he do wrong?
I saw the women trying to arrest that skinny guy.
The Montreal cops? Yeah.
That was so sad.
Oh, shit. Jack, what's going on with you, man?
Okay, link to my channel is in the chat. I have my podcast Red Evening with my co-host Rob Says from the Masculine Geek. I also do my own podcast called The Truthcast, and I do videos on just basic fitness concepts, keeping it simple because a lot of guys complicate this shit when it can be easy. Also, my collaboration with the man himself, Troy Francis, the 50 Shades of Game audiobook trilogy. Link is in the chat as well, and you can go check that out right there. That's it.
All right. Conk.
Hey.
Dang, I didn't let you talk. Go ahead and talk some more, Conk. You talk a lot. What are you talking
Wait
about?
till you hear me sing. That's really good. But yeah, I've actually been on internet hiatus for like 6 weeks. But I did do a show called Religion Zero. I just threw the playlist in.
Cool.
We're probably going to start that up early mid-November. And a little fun life update is, hey, look at that, hiding behind myself.
There you go.
But
My bad.
Yeah, little fun life update. Yesterday, I officially did not take the root beer float and got terminated from my employment. So I'm going to go online full time.
Boy.
And I already have some stuff in the fire. It's going to be a good November. That's all I got to say.
Support Conk. He was a Christian before he was cool to be a Christian.
You should convert to a player.
Yes. Yeah. How cool would that be? Conk's guide to Christian.
My enlightenment to degeneracy.
Yeah. Ryan.
Going workaholic again. On Sundays, I got the Sidebar series back doing Book of Puck. I know, is it Pook? Is it Puck? I'm like, you know what? Puck rhymes, so that's what I'm doing. End of story. So Sundays, just before Rolo's 4 p.m. live stream, I'm throwing an episode, Book of Puck, going through the whole thing. Nice watch. The second channel, if you haven't followed it yet, Digital Ryan, it's the gaming channel. Enjoy it. It's casual. The SMP. There's a great Discord channel that we run through the thing where the guys just swap notes with each other. Yeah, it sounds goofy that it's just guys playing games, but you know what? Guys play and do what they do. You can play Dungeons and Dragons and still get laid. It's fucking fine. Mm-hmm. But they like it because you completely get rid of all that alpha male Lamborghini bullshit. So if you don't want to be around those guys just talking about who's got the bigger dick, then feel free to come on in, check it out. And then, yeah, it's just going to be more videos, and I'm just cranking out book 2. It's turned into a beast. I could see why it took you like 2.5 years to get book 2 out, because this one, just in the second draft, is already the size of my first book, and I'm like, I'm missing like half of what I need.
I know.
So I'm fucked.
You're like me, man. I do that same shit, because like I'm working on book 5 right now. I'm working on Player's Handbook, like it's a book on game, right? And so I'm like, okay, I need to include this and this and this. And now I'm at the point where I'm looking at the word count and I'm like, holy shit, this is like 130,000 words.
Yeah.
So
do I make it a trilogy? Is it like Frodo taking the ring?
I only intended it to be this little small book, but now it's like a full-size book.
Yeah. So
Troy,
that's for me.
Yes, so as far as my stuff's concerned, first of all, yes, 50 Shades of Game, written by me, narrated by Jack Napier. Check it out. The link is in the chat. I know Jack's spamming the link around, so check that out. It's awesome. And also, I have got the relaunch of my course, Charisma and Dating Academy, is coming out on the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November, the world's greatest mindset and dating course. Learn charisma, learn triad skills, all of the dating skills that you need. That is opening for new enrollments on the 5th of November for 5 days only. So there'll be more information on that on my channel. Head over to my YouTube channel. You can get onto my email list there, and you'll find out all of the latest updates on that. But 5th of November, Charisma and Dating Academy, taught by me, coming out for one time only this year. So look out for that.
Nice. Now my turn. I will be on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, as my usual shows are. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about all this popularity of guys talking about the rudderless, purposeless guys, the Lost Boys generation. Suddenly, that's the new hot topic right now. So I kind of want to clarify some mythology that's being sort of thrown out there by a lot of other channels as well, but I want to get into that. We got a lot of real good response to the video that I put up on Wednesday that we actually shot the week before of myself and Sterling Cooper and Justin Waller in Tahoe. We have another one coming out too, by the way. That was one of two. One was on the mountaintop. The other one was us in the Tahoe Keys. So that'll be interesting. But the topic is kind of similar. But I think you guys will really like that one as well. If you like that first one, you'll definitely like this new one that's coming up. That'll be Wednesday. I'll probably let it go at about noon Pacific time, so like 3 o'clock Eastern. So that'll be the midweek show. And tomorrow, like I said, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Book 5, like I said, is in second round of edits, because I have to actually pare out pull out the stuff that I think is extraneous. Because again, like Ryan was saying, you kind of get into it, and once you get into that zone, you kind of put too much in, and so now it's not what you put in, it's what you strip out. So that's where I'm at with that right now. So it should be coming up very soon. I would say within the next 4 to 5 weeks, I should have the book 5 available. I'm still deciding how I want to promote it, by the way. I don't know if I'm going to go with Gumroad. I don't know if I'm just going to go straight to Amazon. There will eventually be an Audible version of it as well, but I'm going to go with a Kindle and a print to begin with. So that's coming up as well. And that is me for today. Gentlemen, thank you guys for discussing this very important topic today. And I guess I will see you guys next week. Ryan, I think you have duties next week. So
sweet.
So Ryan will be hosting next Saturday. Go to his channel, and whatever the topic is whatever he'll decide it is. Thanks, John Fitch, by the way, for today's topic. I wasn't even thinking about this one. Tomorrow, by the way, also I'm going to be on, or it's going to be Monday. I will be on with Rich Cooper on his channel, Entrepreneurs and Cars. We're going to talk about religion, marriage, my book, Religion and Marriage, and some other topics as well. So I'll be on his show. That will be at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So check that one out as well. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I will see you guys